Britain's sycamore trees are part of the country's folk history and legend. They include the Darnley sycamore in Glasgow, under which Mary, Queen of Scots, is supposed to have nursed her second husband, Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, back to health. The tree under which the Tolpuddle martyrs met. The Costerfin sycamore, allegedly the scene of the murder of Lord James Forrester in 1679 by his mistress and niece, Christine Nimmo, and the Hersel sycamore, supposedly planted to commemorate those who died in the Battle of Flodden in 1513. Thornbury had its own majestic sycamore, and you can see this photo properly at the Images of Thornbury website. Here's one I took earlier. The tree stood in Glebe Field, which is property attached to Glebe Cottage. Animals graze in Glebe Field. This may be a covenanted right. Again, the Images of Thornbury website has a good photo, which you should view. Here's another photo by Flickr user Genster 1979. If you want to know what exactly glebe means, there is an informative article on a website called World Wide Words. You will see that the preparation of this web page was assisted by David Primrose, who just happens to be Vicar of Thornbury. An arboricultural consultant was commissioned to write a report on the Glebe Field Sycamore. This happened in July 2008, and it was a death sentence for the tree. Note the vocabulary used: extensive decay, extensive dieback, growth with reduced vigour, risk of catastrophic failure, very high risk of injury, relatively short life expectancy, etc., with a recommendation that the tree be felled. Note also the website glebefield.com, the only purpose of which is to hold a copy of that report, as though someone really wanted to justify what happened to the tree. The consultant, Sue Adams, stated that the tree was over mature. Well, it was probably about 120 years old, far short of the average age of a sycamore tree, and much younger than the historic trees mentioned at the beginning of this video. Again, in terms of tree height and branch spread, the Glebe Field Sycamore was less than a fully mature tree. And whilst its height was more than a couple of the historic trees, its diameter was less. This is not the only time that Sue Adams, as Treescope Limited, has recommended the felling of trees, either subject to a tree preservation order or in a conservation area. Here's another example from South Gloucestershire, Upton Cheney, and one from Newport in South Wales. And here's her report about a tree in the Mendips. Note the familiar terminology: extensive decay, further dieback, growth with reduced vigour, catastrophic failure, very high risk of injury, relatively short life expectancy, and a recommendation to fell. If I were a landowner and wanted a protected tree to be removed, I'd call in Sue Adams. And if I were a tree and knew that Sue Adams was going to inspect me, I'd uproot in the middle of the night and make a run for it. But who wanted the tree cut down? Was it the landowner who commissioned Treescope's inspection and report? Or perhaps it was the council, if tree officers had been monitoring it for 2 years. And look at the officer's report to the planning committee and how it almost matches verbatim Sue Adams' report. Fruiting bodies of fungus Kretschmaria doxa on the edge of root flare on northwest side. Fungus cause wood to become brittle. Extensive infection can increase the risk of breakage. 2 pruning wounds at about 2 meters on the north side have extensive decay with the remains of unidentified fungal fruiting bodies. A 500mm long metal probe inserted to its full length, indicating that the decay has extended some distance into the centre of the trunk. A darkened area at 4 metres on the southeast side downwards to the decayed pruning wounds was found to be a strip of dead bark. There is a similar strip of darkened bark about 2 metres long on the southernmost vertical limb. There is extensive dieback in the outer crown. Some outer branches carry dead flower stalks, indicating that the dieback here has occurred since flowering in April. Branches carrying yellowing leaves, suggesting that dieback is continuing. The canopy is thinner than normal, and the leaves appear smaller. Due to the previous removal of many of the inner branches, most of the foliage. Tree is growing with reduced vigour. Unlikely to respond well to surgery. Likely to accelerate its decline. A crown reduction would reduce the size of the tree, spoil its appearance and its amenity value. Now I can understand that since the consultant and tree officer inspected the tree together, they could have detected the same matters. But the closeness of the terminology and phrasing is obvious and raises suspicions. As part of the consultation process, the council sent letters to 4 addresses: 29 Castle Street, known as the Old Vicarage, West Lodge, part of the Thornbury Castle Hotel complex, St Mary's Church, and the schoolhouse, attached to St Mary's Church of England Primary School.